Hello guys, how are you? I am Noor and today I will explain about the controllers in ASP MVC .NET 6. So let me create a new project for the controllers. Go to the Visual Studio, right click, run as administrator, and here I will choose this option, create a new project, click on the ASP MVC, search for ASP MVC, and here you have to select this template, click on next, and I will keep the name of my project as ASP MVC controllers. I think yes, it should be like in this way. Controllers, yes, it will be the project name, and my project will save inside this location. Click on next, and here from the framework I will select the latest version of .NET, which is 6.0. I will select no authentication type and uncheck this option at this time. You can also keep check. Create. Okay, the project created successfully. Here in the project, you can see that we have the controllers folder. And inside the controller, this home controller is added by default automatically, right? Now let's suppose you have some kind of other requirements, some kind of other scope of the project, then you can add the controllers inside this folder. Basically, the controller handles the incoming URL from the browser and then perform different kind of actions according to the requirement. We can write logic inside the controller, we can read data from the database from the controller, we can send the data for inserting to the database from the controllers, and then controllers send response to the view accordingly. Now let's suppose I have a requirement to make a page in your application for the address types list. And then I will add a controller with the name address type. I will read the data from the database and then I will send this data to the view, and inside the view, I mean inside the HTML page, the data will be displayed accordingly. Now I will add here a very simple controller, address types. Controller, please select the MVC controller, empty template, click on add. So here I have to the name of the controller, address is like, it will be the controller name. Just keep in mind that you have to keep the controller keyword with each controller class. So your class of the controller should be end with the controller keyword. Please don't remove this controller keyword, right? Now click on add. Here you can see that the addresses controller is added successfully. All the controllers classes are inherited from the controller class, which is the framework class. This framework class is in the Microsoft ASP.NET Core.MVC namespace. So basically it is the namespace class and we are inheriting our addresses controller from these. And it is the inheritance symbol in C#. If you want to inherit any kind of class from the other class, then you have to use this symbol and then the parent class, and here is the child class, right? Now I will add here a very simple view at this time action method inside the controller. Public I action result. Let's suppose I want to make a view for the address types. Yes. And from the action method, I will return a view like in this way. But you can see inside the views folder that we have new folder for the addresses controller and we have new view for the address type. For this purpose, first we will add a folder with the controller name. As you can see, for the home controller there is folder home, but for the addresses controller there is no folder inside the views folder. Now right click on the views, add new folder and keep the name of the folder as addresses because our controller name is addresses. Okay, and inside the addresses views I will add a view for the address type. For each view there should be an action result method inside the controller, and inside the views folder you have to add the view accordingly. Let me add a view inside this folder. Right click, add view. You can either select the razor view empty template or the razor view, but at this time you have to select the razor view because I want to select a layout also for the view. So add, and here give a name to our view. The view name should be identical to the action result method inside your controller. You can see that here the action result is address type. The view name is also address type because the action result basically returning the view with the same name. Keep the template empty, and here I will use a layout. Just click on this option, and it is my project folder structure. Inside the view you can see the shared folder, and inside the share folder there is a file layout.cshtml. Now choose this one and click OK. You can see here the path for the layout file, and then click again on add. You added successfully to your project inside the addresses folder for the addresses controller action method address types. Right. Once the view added successfully, then I will run the project and will show you the result. Okay guys, the view added successfully. Basically the view is like an HTML page, but in C# it is a little different. We can add here the C# code and some other kind of stuffs. As you know that I have selected a layout inside the shared folder for this view, and you can see here the layout is equal to views shared layout. If I just comment this line, then no layout will be selected for the address type. Let me the project and see the result. Okay. Now how can no I am at the home page of my website. Now how can I redirect to the address type view? You can see that this is in the addresses controller. Now I will type the controller name. Yes. And then the view name inside the browser. But keep in mind that for the URL you have not to add the controller keyword. You can see here that our controller name is addresses controller, but inside the URL we not added the controller keyword. When I hit this URL, then the controller, this action method will be hit, and this action method will return this view. I will keep here a debugger so that you can see the result. Yes, you can see that the address type controller that the addresses controller address type view is hit. click next, click next, and continue. No, you are at the addresses type list view. Let's suppose I want to return some kind of data from this controller to the browser. Then I will show you the steps here. Let me first add a model class inside the models folder, add for the addresses types. The class name should be addresses address types .cs, and inside this class I will add some property like address type id int sorry control z. It should be like in this way: public int address type id get set, right? And the other property should be address type name, and the third property should be is active, right? It should be integer and it should be string, and the third should be boolean, right? Now I will make a list of these address type model, I mean class, inside this action method of the controller. So let's me create the address types list is equal to new address types list. Yes. Tab a namespace. Okay, I am missing a namespace. So just mouse over here, expand this option, double click on using ASP MVC controller dot models. Basically, I am missing the namespace for this class. If you go to the address type class, you can see that the namespace addresses ASP controllers dot models. And no, I imported the namespace for this class here inside the controller class, right? I will return these address type list to my view, and I will display inside the browser. But first, let me add some kind of data. No, it is a list, but there is no data. If you want to read data from the database, then you will make here a database call. You will read the data and assign to these variable. But at this time, I will not make a database class, and will assign just some dummy data here inside the controller. So address type list, and then add. By adding add, you can add a row to the address types list, right? Like in this way. The add is a built-in .NET class, new address types, and I will add here a row. Address type ID should be 1, comma, address type name should be mailing, and the is active should be false at this time. No, this line will add basically a row to this variable. Let's me add one another row, and here in this case the address type should be 2, the address name should be address type name should be shipping, and it should be true. And I will add one another row. Its address type ID should be 3, and the name should be local, and it should also be active. Now I will return these address type list to my view. Go to your view, address type .cshtml, and inside the view I will display the data. So let's me add a div, and inside the div I will add a HTML table, and inside the table I will display the data. So the table header should be, let's me make the table header address type ID. The second header column should be uh, address type name, and the third column should be for the is active flag, right? Is active. Yes. Here I will add here uh, the body for the table. T body. It is the HTML tag for adding the body to the table, and here I will add the C sharp code for displaying the list of address type. Guys, keep in mind, if you want to add a C sharp code inside the HTML, I mean inside the view, then you have to write the @ symbol and then the curly braces. No, I can write here C sharp code and also HTML code. I have the option. So I will declare here a for each loop. But before doing any kind of activity here, let me first add here the model. What will be the model? The model will be the class, the list, the object that you are returning from the action result of the controller. Now from the action result at this time I am returning address type list, which is of type list address types. So I will add here the model accordingly to the view. Go to the view, type here model, and it will be of list type. Yes, address types. It will be my model, right? Press enter. And now in the for each, I will loop through the data in the address type list. Type here model, and inside the model, you know that I have the address type list. Yes. Add here a row to the table, and the first TD, I mean table data, should be the item dot address type ID. As you can see that I can either write C sharp code by typing @ and then curly braces, and I can also write directly C sharp code after the @ symbol. If I just remove @ symbol, then a simple item dot address type will be printed in the browser. Let me first show you in the browser. I am running the project. Go to the URL, addresses and address types. Here, next, next. You can see most of the address type list. You can see that the count is 0. I mean there is no data, there is no row in the address type list. If I just step over, I have added a row. No more over here. You can see that the count is 1. Click next. Mouse over there, the count is 2. Click next. There are total 3 records as you can see. If I want to show you at the 0, I have added these data. In the second row, I have these data. And in the third row, I have this data. I can also view these data by writing click. Go to quick catch option. Here you can see the first row, the second row, and the third row. Okay. Now I will return these data to my view and I will display here. So Control S, continue. You can see that the item.address type is displaying in the first column, this one. But there is no data in the item.address type. Basically, I have ID. So you have to add the @ symbol. Now it will pick the value from the address type ID. Control S, click on hard reload option. I will now remove the debugger. You can see that the ID no printed, right? Now I will add here another TD for the name, address type name, and for the third column, which is the is active. Yes, control S. Sorry, first hard reload. You can see that all the data is displaying successfully inside the browser. So guys, basically we watch how we can add a controller, how we can add a view accordingly for the controller, and then how we can send the data from the controller to the view. Basically, if I just show you the flow, we type here a URL and we press enter. After pressing the enter, the controller, this action method is hit due to this URL, and then we perform some kind of activity, some kind of logic, and then we return these data to the view, and inside the view we are displaying the data. The view is basically the HTML page, the things that you are watching inside the browser. Now let's me just comment this line, the layout for a address type. As I explained earlier that uh, we can also uncomment the layout or change the layout directly from these options. Control S, hard reload, for the debugger. Yes, I think I should restart the application for these. I commented the layout for this view. The address types, yes, but there is no impact. I think I can also uncomment the layout. Okay, there is no impact. We explain the things. In the next video, we will explain some kind of other stuffs. So keep watching the videos. Goodbye this time. Thank you.